Well, I believe it's 6:30 according to that clock over there on the wall that I'm seeing and also my phone. So we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And first ask for the roll to be called, please, Mary.
Patterson.
Here.
Paul.
Here.
Storr.
Present.
Esri.
Here.
Furtado. King. Here. Thorsland.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Mr. Thorsland is definitely out of town and was informed by Ms. King that Ms. Furtado is not feeling well tonight, so she's not going to make it either. So the committee's members are here that are going to be here. Move on then to approval of agenda and addendum. Is there such a motion? Made by Ms. King, seconded by Mr. Paul. Any discussion on that or changes that need to be made? Other than Mr. Hall did ask if we would be open to moving the item 9, the new business items to be recommended to the county board, to right after communications 6, to speed that up, in part not knowing how long we might discuss the item 8. So if there's no objection to that from anybody, we'll move or change the agenda to reflect that then. So with that change, all in favor of the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thanks. On then to 4, approval of minutes from the August 4th, 2022 regular meeting. Moved by Mr. Paul to accept, seconded by Mr. Patterson. Any corrections on those to be made? Seeing none, all in favor of approving? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thanks. Okay, we are to part 5, public participation. I only have 2 slips thus far. Do ask that you please keep your comments to 5 minutes. Step forward to the desk up here. You'll need to push the lowest button. It's supposed to be a face with mouth speaking on it to turn on your microphone. On the microphone, and the first person I have is Mr. Steve Schmall. And also just if you state your name for the...
My name is Steve Schmall. I'm a resident of the Edgewood subdivision, have been for about 32 years. And I'm here on behalf of the 150 homes that are in that subdivision. I've already put a packet out in front of you, and as you might have surmised, this is going to be regarding a particular residence within the neighborhood, which is 404 Cary Avenue. I don't know if this is familiar to any of you. It's my understanding this issue has been before you before this evening. Let me very quickly go through those photographs you're looking at. They're photographs that I took about a week and a half ago. The first photograph on the top is from the southern side. There is a house within those weeds. Many of those weeds top my height of 6 feet. There is any number of weeds that are in there. I can't identify them all. One of the most significant ones in this picture is called Thistle. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a very invasive plant. And I will read something that I've pulled offline. I'll quote it. It's a very dangerous and invasive plant. Its sharp spines cover virtually every surface of the stem. Leaves and flowers can easily puncture and irritate the skin. We've got a lot of kids that are in this neighborhood. There's tons of people that walk. They're not able to walk on the sidewalk there because the sidewalk is impassable the way it is right now. And this is what I understand from the current residents around this home. This home was immaculate, both inside and out, 4 years ago. The current residents took ownership of this house for the first year. They mowed the yard on and off, are the words that have been given to me, so I will do that. The second, third, and fourth years, there's been nothing done to the yard, which brings us to the photographs that you see here. It's just a mess. We have tried to contact these folks through U.S. mail. We could not get a phone number. We could not get an email. And attempts by the neighbors to help mow the grass, even so much as one line over on the very last picture, you'll see a home that is next to this. You see the weeds on the left-hand side, and these folks have kept their house looking very nice. And that house is typical of the homes in Edgewood. I don't want to sound snobbish, but it's a great neighborhood, and that's why so many people have lived there 20, 30, and one person's lived there 50 years. I didn't even know the subdivision was that old, but they have. And it's not right for these people, certainly adjacent to this property, if they go to sell their home, they're going to lose at least 10 to 20% of the value of their home, which on a $200,000 house is $20,000 to $30,000. If you multiply that times the 5 homes around this, you can see that the impact is significant to someone living around this, and they don't deserve to have to live around something like this. They've lived in the subdivision and taken good care of it. Let me be clear about one thing. This is not about the residents in the house. This is about the care that they have taken and imposed upon the residents within the neighborhood. I don't know the people until this morning. I am putting together a petition to present to the board as a whole on the 22nd, and I'm circulating it, and I've asked one of the other neighbors to help. She was approached last night by these folks. It is the first contact we've been able to have. I now have a phone number and an email. I've contacted him today, and he's going to email me back regarding some of his thoughts regarding this. But up to this point, I was told by people even within the county, do not set foot on that property. You will find yourself in jail. And I think that's probably true. And all the residents adjacent to this, and I spoke to them all individually, echoed the same sentiments. So I didn't even want to approach the people. I would be glad to, but it's just not wise. So I haven't done that at this point. But again, it's not about the people or anything else. It's just about the care of their home. The bull thistle that blows around the neighborhood, the neighbors don't deserve to have that in their yards. I understand that a lot of the neighbors embrace the natural look, and that's fine. The home next to me has done that. She has an area probably half the size of this opening, and it's got flowers and so forth that are, again, taller than I am, but it's taken care of. She spends time on it. She works at it, and it looks great. And I would encourage you to drive through Edgewood, and especially 404, to see this for yourself. These pictures don't do justice to the condition of that home. I've talked to neighbors that say they're no longer investing anything into their homes because they know that whatever they put into their home, they're not going to get out. And this problem is expanding within the neighborhood. There's now neighbors that say, why should I take care of my yard? Look at 404 Cary. It's in the condition that it's in. And I really can't fault them for that. The reason I talk to these people is because on the first Monday of each month, I have volunteered my services to go through the neighborhood to anybody within the HOA and pick up any yard waste they've got. And to this date, I've picked up about 185 bags of yard waste. And I do this because there's people within the neighborhood that can't, because of their age, they can't take it to the yard waste reclamation site. They're almost lucky to get it to the end of the drive. And
if you could, Mr. Small,
okay.
please wrap it. I mean, I appreciate you bringing it forward. I'm sure we all do, this issue. If there's any last few words you want to say.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you again.
I was originally going to come to the board meeting, and this is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
No,
And it
appreciate
was
it.
suggested to me, I didn't want to circumvent you folks, and so I thought I should at least give you a heads up.
Yep.
I spoke with John earlier this past week, so he's kind of in tune with what's going on. I'll be glad to answer any questions
Okay.
that anyone has.
We don't have like a question and answer session during
Okay.
public participation. We aren't set up to do that.
I understand.
So,
Okay, well, if anyone has questions after the meeting, I'll be here, and I'd be more than happy to discuss it.
thank you. Okay, next I have Mr. Rogan Henning. Roger, I'm sorry. That's right. Sorry, Roger. You'll need to turn the microphone back on. Thanks.
My name's Roger Henning. I live in Philo. I've been coming to these ELUC meetings and ZBA meetings since probably around March about these wind turbines and stuff. And I see what you guys are considering, but I've emphasized this. You don't have anything to protect anybody who doesn't have any structures on their property. And I just can't believe that you think that's the correct way to do. I've got farm ground that doesn't have structure on it, thinking that my kids or something might build there someday, and you don't have anything to protect me from what my neighbor might do. I can't believe you sit there and think that's right. Other counties, I've looked on the internet, they've got stuff, protect them even if you don't have a structure. I really believe you guys need to look at that and reconsider your setbacks. I mean, there's nothing saying a guy couldn't put a tower right next to my property line, but farther from his place, and just mess my piece of property up for the future. I mean, if nothing else, make him put it closer to his, or in the middle of his, or something. We need to sit down and you need to think about something instead of trying to blow something through for the board to approve. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Sorry about that name. Anybody else care to comment? Mr. Harkey, I saw you come in and pick up a slip. Didn't know if you wanted to speak or not. Go right ahead, sir.
Good evening, Ted Harkey, Sydney, Illinois. I was on vacation when you guys announced to have your meeting, and couldn't come here last 2 months ago on a Thursday night because I was in Florida. And I asked you guys to read some stuff to the folks in attendance about wind turbine noise causing suicides. I want to make sure all of you guys read the entire article. I hope you got that. And one of the negative things I heard about it, it wasn't peer reviewed. I'll have to get you some peer reviews of that guy's research to make sure you guys know that, it's just not a bunch of baloney that come out of U of I. Okay? I sent an email to Susan Bergstrom, a couple of them, asking her to forward stuff to you guys. I was trying to find out from the chairman, who's not here. You're just acting chairman tonight, right? And
Acting
from
chair.
Stephanie Furtado. And here's my question. What was the scientific basis of the 2,000-foot setback? I never got any kind of response from any of the staff, any of the ELUC members. If you guys have nothing, just tell us that you have nothing on the 2,000-foot setback being safe for residents. I want to know if it's safe to live 2,000 feet from a turbine. Remember, and I know you're tired of hearing my story. I appreciate you letting me keep going, Aaron. But my house was downwind from a turbine at 2,225 feet. If someone was to ask me if I wanted the 2,225-foot turbine or the 1,665-foot turbine removed, I've said this before, I would have chose the 2,225-foot turbine removed first. I was just directly downwind of it. So when you guys ask for a 2,000-foot setback, I'd like to know if that's going to be upwind, downwind, or what. That's pathetic if it's if you're going to be downwind of that. I agree with the gentleman that went just before me. You guys are going to ruin land that could be home sites for people in the future. I think that all your setbacks need to be from property lines instead of people's homes. It's kind of like who gets there first gets to ruin the land first type of deal where I don't think our offspring and our next generation should have their land stolen for wind turbine safety zone setbacks, okay? All of our other ordinances are based on property lines. Setbacks or height, things like that. It's property line setback. You guys do a special carve out for renewable energy. It's unfair. I would like to have answers to my emails. I asked a few other kind of hard-hitting questions, and when I get zero response, that tells me you guys have no explanation or no answer for what I'm asking. It's like the run and hide deal. I don't think you need to run and hide from us. I need for you guys to be right so people don't get hurt. I'm glad. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm glad that you guys will send this back to the zoning committee. I think all of you need to go watch the zoning hearings happen. The best thing about that is that there's a feedback, two-way discussion. I would like to have some rules suspended at the at the zoning board meetings. I would like to see if there was a way that every speaker, after they speak and present stuff, when that's over, the board gets to ask questions of the presenter. I think that the citizens who have to live with the wind turbines deserve to be able to ask questions directly to the developer. No different than when someone wants to put in a subdivision, get a special use permit, and they can be asked questions from the neighbors. You know, what's your plan look like? What are you going to do when this bad thing happens? What's the safe distance from a wind turbine for the workers when there's a lightning strike? I want to ask that question. It's going to be real interesting, especially if you let us actually engage the people who are blowing smoke. I want to be able to do that. And then if I get to do that, they'll be totally exposed. And then you'll see, okay? So I'd like to just put a spotlight on this thing and put sunshine where they're trying to just hide in the shadows. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Harkey. Anybody else want to speak? Mr. Decker? Microphone's still on.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Ed Decker, Philo, Illinois. Like I said, I go back from my boots on the ground, firsthand experience. My son rents a farm down there. No zoning down in Douglas County. Farm right behind Justin, and that's why right beside him, my son rents a farm. And it's our first on-the-ground boots experience is why I guess both of us have probably spent our time up here. My son's farm down there, there's one tower approximately 150 yards off property line to the west, and to the east it's probably 200 to 300 yards. But the farm my son farms down there, the towers have probably really eliminated anybody building a house on that farm, you know. And this, if we don't have setbacks from our property lines, you're going to do the same thing in my properties up here in Champaign County. You're going to, you know, it's going to affect my ground and the use, what I can use that ground for, you know. And my kids, I always say, like, I got a granddaughter, and maybe my great-granddaughter 90 years from now wants to build a house or have a small farm like Roger does here of, not a small farm, but does pumpkins, you know, or has some craft, whatever. Maybe she wants to grow that there, and with the windmill sitting right beside it, it's going to be less attractive for her to do that, or my son, great-grandson. But that's why I'm here. That's why I've spent that much time. And like I say, it's my boots-on-the-ground experience. If we hadn't had one of these built down there, I probably wouldn't be here tonight. You know, I just go driving by until I watched one go up, got a farm next to one. I got firsthand experience I don't think anybody else here has. And it does get under my skin just a little bit that, You know, you kind of talk, well, it doesn't need to be from the property lines. It does. My name's Ed Decker. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else at this point in time? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public participation and move on then to communications. Are there any communications? Jacob, oh.
I have an email to share today from Roger Frick regarding the wind turbines. It says, starts off, appreciate the board's patience and dedication, especially individual responses to my often uncompromising disclosures. Apologies for being unable to personally attend ongoing meetings and engage in your board's constructive dialogues. I have expressed a critical view of turbines on productive farmland in past emails. Earlier emails provided wind energy is verifiably no cleaner as renewable or more sustainable than traditional sources. Commercial wind turbines must be restricted to land that is not more valuable for other uses. Small and non-conforming turbines for families or limited use should be considered separately. Commercial wind energy production is very unreliable and extremely expensive. To survive, it produces, I didn't write this email. Must rely on government subsidies, tax write-offs, and mandates, forcing citizens to buy wind energy even if it's not more expensive, on the pretext that it is environmentally friendly. In fact, reliance on wind energy will make us poorer. It will do not, we do not use other more dependable, less costly sources. Proactive efforts by California and Texas failed to provide reliable wind energy when urgently needed, and their labors provided considerably more costly to citizens and businesses. Producers claim a single turbine consumes a small volume of land. However, the overreaching fact is a vast area of land for these aggregate volume needed to achieve commercial viability for services often unavailable, requiring traditional energy sources to be accessible. Nothing gained. Construction of wind and solar farms use vast amounts of fossil fuels for mining, transportation, and construction. Often turbines do not produce nearly enough energy in their lifetimes as required to build them. Candidly and sadly, commercial wind energy is akin to stock market Ponzi scheme. Consider 3 important unanswered questions. How long will it take citizens and landowners to benefit from these services and rental incomes of an unprofitable, unviable, subsidized commercial wind industry? Who pays for removal of recycled, aged out, inoperative turbines? And what will be available to replace the extinct, failed wind energy industry? Very respectfully, Roger Frick.
Thank you, Jacob. I believe we all received that email, as did Planning and Zoning. I asked Jacob if he'd read it into the minutes. Thanks again. Any further communications? Okay, seeing none, and I have nothing for communications. We'll then move to our new number 7, new business, items to be recommended to the county board. We have A, zoning case 059-AT-22, a request by Dennis Teppen to amend the Champaign County zoning map to change the zoning district designation from B3 highway business to B4 general business for further development of a 5-acre tract of land in the northeast quarter of Section 24, Township 20 North, Range 8 East of the 3rd Principal Meridian in Hinsley Township with an address of 73 East Hinsley Road, Champaign. Is there moved by Mr. Patterson, seconded by Ms. King. Mr. Hall, do you wish to speak to this?
This is recommended unanimously by the ZBA. We received no public comments, none from Hinsley Township. This property had been proposed for rezoning back in 06 and 07. There was a protest from Hinsley that the county board did not override, and so that's why it failed at that time. But We haven't gotten any comments from Hinsley Township in this case. And the things that seemed to be at issue back in '06 and '07 appear to have been corrected. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks. Further questions, comments from the committee members? Mr. Storr, go right ahead.
Right. Could you explain what the difference is between, what was it, general business and highway business?
The highway business zoning district, it's really, and in staff's opinion, it's an outdated zoning district. It has very limited uses. It's what the drafters of the ordinance thought would fit along highways back in 1973. Many properties that were zoned B3 have been rezoned to B4. The B4 General Business District is our most robust business zoning district. It allows the most uses. So that's my personal view of how these things are differ. There really are many fewer uses allowed in B3, and it's, like I say, to me, it's an outdated zoning district.
Ms. King?
Is there a reason why this hadn't been rezoned to B4 before now? Or is just, it hadn't been asked, so you guys don't rezone things, you know, as you only go through a rezoning process as it comes up? Is that basically what's happening?
That's correct. And as I said, the owner of the property back in 2006 had tried to get it rezoned, but there was a protest, and the county board, for some reason, didn't have the votes to override the protest. But the things that were at issue then seem to have been corrected.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the specific protest items from Hensley?
The Hinsley protest didn't actually say what was at issue, but it's our understanding, well, no, it did, I'm sorry. They were concerned about heavy truck traffic on Hinsley Road. And they were concerned that it would crush some existing tiles, existing drainage tiles. And it's our understanding that those tiles have since been replaced. And
John, I have a quick question. Would this have been during the period, I'm not going to name names, but when there was a specific person on the Hinsley Township Board who might have kind of instigated the protest? If maybe you do or don't know who I'm talking about.
well, I know there was a prominent member of the Hinsley Township Board that lived like only a quarter mile away. And I don't know if that's the person you're thinking of.
I don't believe that'd be the same person, but no problem. Just curious. Any further?
And I would say back in '06, we didn't actually get the Hinsley protest until it was at the county board. So there was no way to deal with the issues at the ZBA, even if there was anything that could have been done.
Okay, thanks. Further questions, comments? If not, we're ready to vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Thank you. Passed, I believe, 4-1. And we will then, congratulations, Mr. Teppin. He'll move on to the county board for at least past this step, moves on to the county board in 2 weeks, 2 weeks, the Thursday. Okay, on to new business for information only. We have A, online registration opens September 12th, 2022 for October 15th, 2022, residential electronics collection. John, do you want to speak to this?
I'll just say this is the first recycling event we've had since Susan Monty retired. That's like trying to sail the ship without the captain, but we have a coordination meeting coming up the next couple of days, and everybody else are long-term recyclers. So I don't really think there'll be any problem, and the sign-up opens on Monday, the 12th.
Thank you. Discussion on this? Thank you, John, for continuing to do this. Not that it wasn't already maybe scheduled and such, but we know Susan definitely leaves a big hole to be filled. I mean, till find a replacement and get that person trained. There's no doubt. Oh, go ahead, Ms. King.
Is this brochure that's in the packet for us, is this also available online for residents to look at?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Further discussion? Good question. Okay, seeing none, we'll then move on to new business. Items to receive and place on file by ELEC to allow a 30-day review period. We have A, proposed zoning ordinance text amendment to revise select wind farm ordinance sections as follows. 1, revise section 6.4.4C.2 to increase the minimum required separation to principal structures. 2, revise section 6.1.4D.5 to increase the maximum allowed height. 3, revise section 6.1.4L or I to lower the allowable noise level. 4, revise section 9.33B.6 to allow a fee to pay for a post-construction noise study. Is there such a motion? Moved by Mr. Patterson, seconded by Ms. King. Discussion. Or Mr. Hall, do you wish to speak to this first?
Well, one thing that wasn't included in that summary is the requirement for the post-construction noise study, which was part of the motion at the last meeting, and we did include it. We couldn't find any other Illinois county that requires it, but the state of Minnesota and New York State both require post-construction noise studies. We included the Minnesota information in the handout, or in the agenda, and the requirements that we added are similar to that, with the exception that, and again, this is sort of shooting in the dark, but we reviewed the noise study that had been done by Vermilion County for the Hartke residents, and in that study they found November was the best time for them regarding having high winds, which produce the wind turbines are operating at their maximum, less noise from tree leaves and things like that. So we incorporated the November time frame, although that can be revised if the wind farm and the consultant working for the county think that a different time would be better. They can change that. The other thing this includes, which was not discussed as part of the motion at the last meeting, is the fee to pay for the noise study. It was discussed that the noise study should be paid for by the wind farm developer. In my view, you might as well get that money up front as part of the application fee, and then you can refund it if it's not used, or the developer has to pay more based on the cost of the study. And again, I couldn't find any examples of how much that might cost, so I just made it the same as the original application fee. So the result of this will be doubling the application fee for a wind farm.
Mr. Storr.
What is the application fee? Could you remind me?
After the recent amendment, the minimum is $34,000 or $760 per wind farm tower, whichever ends up being higher. And so we just simply use that same fee structure for the noise study. So the minimum for a wind farm would be $68,000 if this is approved. And that's just for the special use permit. There's a much greater fee for the actual permit to construct.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
Just to follow up, if the price of the study is slightly higher or exceeds the 34,000, how would that be handled?
The way it's written, the developer would have to pay that additional fee, and we actually have the similar situation with several other review fees for any project that requires a stormwater review or any kind of engineering review. So this is nothing new, but the dollar amounts are much greater.
Thank you. And I appreciate the extra work that you had to go to, and I hope that this will address some of the concerns we've heard.
Mr. Paul.
Yeah, I had Mr. Henning brought up a point that I hadn't thought about as far as, do we have any rules on what a principal structure is? And then is a dwelling have to be the principal structure of the property anyway? So if you have, like, I'll bring up the Warners because it's the one I can think of the most. They have a very large pole barn in the back of their property that they run their business out of, and they spend more time in that than the home. So would that principal building where they spend more of their time be where we set the boundary from? Or what constitutes a principal building? So if this gentleman, could he go build a pole barn or a structure on the edge of his property right now since there's not up, and then he would then have protection from the setback?
A principal structure in the rural area is generally going to be a dwelling, although if you've gotten approval to run a business out of a building, then sometimes your house will actually be accessory to that business structure. But there aren't that many businesses out in the rural area that, have had to get a special use permit approval. There's a number of contractor businesses that have gotten approvals over the years, and when they get a special use permit to run a contractor facility, then the home becomes accessory. For a farmer, it's actually, in my mind, it's not clear to me, is the farmer dwelling the principal structure? Is there any one building that would be more important than where the farmer lives? I would think it would be the farm dwelling as the principal structure, but that's actually never come up yet, so that's a good thing, but that is a gray area to me.
I would argue that a farm is first a business, and that the principal structure would always be the outbuildings, because a home could be anywhere, but a farm is a business. So I would put the principal structure as where that business operates out of, be it tractors or livestock. So, but we don't have any actual definition of what the structure would be. We don't have any guidelines on that.
Nope.
So right now, if Mr. Henning decided to go build something on the edge of his property, would that be a protection for him then in the future?
Well, again, I don't know how big the property is. We don't allow, the only way you can build a building on property you don't live on is if it's for a bona fide agricultural use. So if it's a building to house machinery for farming, that could happen. My recommendation would be if the county board wants the rules to be applied that way, we should write that into the ordinance so we get rid of any gray area.
Just for the sake of argument, potentially move it back just to two property lines then? Would that be too much for us to do? Because, I mean, that seems to be the biggest issue of the people who come in for public participation.
Oh, okay, going back to Mr. Henning's comments about the situation in Douglas County, our ordinance requires at a minimum 1.5 times the wind turbine height from a property line that's non-participating. So we're expecting any new wind farm to have roughly 600-foot tall towers, so you would not get a wind turbine closer than 900 feet to a non-participating property line. So 300 yards, I can't recall if that's what Mr. Henning if that's identical to what he described in Douglas County or not. But that for background. And what was it that you were asking about there, Mr. Paul? About property lines?
Whether or not if we could adjust it in the how it's written here to state from the setbacks set from property line versus principal dwelling or residence, just to avoid any further complications of someone who, you know, is in their shed, you know, 12 hours a day opposed to 6 hours in their house.
Well, that would be up to the county board. That's going to change the feasibility for wind farms considerably. But if that's what the county board wants, that's what they could do. That's not the way this is written. But this committee can change this before it goes to public hearing.
Does this board have any desire to do that?
I guess the way to maybe see would be to put that in a motion.
I motion to move setbacks from principal dwelling or homes to property lines.
Is there a second? You know, it's not normal necessarily for the chair, but it's been done before. I'll second it. Discussion?
And again, this is going to have to be voted on again before it goes to the public
yeah.
hearing.
Yeah.
Because this is just to stay at the committee for 30 days.
Did you wish to say something, Mr. Storr?
I'm still thinking about it, and I'm rather concerned that this kind of runs up against people's right to do with what they see that they'd like to do on their farms. And I have some concerns about this. And haven't given it a thought for a little while, and I think I'd like to kind of have some time to look into it for voting on it, and that's the way and that's the way I feel about it.
Thanks. Further discussion? Okay, we'll vote on the motion that's on the floor to change from principal dwelling. The idea, I'm just checking, Mr. Paul, so everybody's clear. The wording, basically the way it is, except the setback now is indicated from principal dwelling to property line. Change that to property line. Okay. So if we're all set to vote on that motion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay, that fails 3-2. So we're back to the original motion as presented. Further discussion? I'll make a few comments, I guess. The way this was presented from Mr. Hall's office, planning and zoning, his own work and the work of his staff, I have no faults with that. They have brought forward what was the direction that was provided them by this committee and by the majority of this committee. I did not personally vote for what is in front of us when it was directed to Mr. Hall and the planning and zoning department, and I'll not be voting for it tonight. I don't feel that the setbacks are necessarily great enough, whether they be from the the primary dwelling or property lines, no matter where it's from. The idea of the noise ordinance, one of the big things with it, the idea that we have 2 different decibel limits, that to me just makes it that much more unworkable. It should be at 1. Go ahead on that.
Okay, this is written with 1.
Oh, okay.
It's 45 dBA.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought, that's right. That's right, we did change that. I'm sorry. That's my fault. But I don't believe we're doing enough for the landowners and the people who actually live in the areas where any new potential wind farms could and would potentially be developed. So I will be voting no. Is there any further discussion before we go ahead and vote on placing this on file to allow a 30-day review period? Seeing none, all in favor of placing it on file, please say aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. And it passes 3-2. Thank you. Okay, we are on to number 10, other business. We have A, semi-annual review of closed session minutes. I believe everybody got a chance to look at them. I guess Ms. Patterson, if you would please maybe make that motion. That's what the state attorney's office recommended. Thank you.
I move to open the ELUG closed session minutes of December 7th, 2017, January 9th, 2020, and August 6th, 2020, and for all other closed session minutes to remain closed.
Thank you. Is there a second to that? Seconded by Ms. King. We can't really discuss it in open. If we want to, we can move into closed session. Does anybody wish to do that? And with nobody wishing to discuss them, I'm all in favor of the motion to open the 3 closed session minutes and leave the remaining closed. Please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thanks. That passes. B, monthly reports. We have the May 2022. Mr. Hall, is there anything you wish to point out on the May report?
No, I would just say that you saw the discussion in the budget about how many zoning cases we're getting this year. And we found out today that we know we're having a record number of cases because we've already blown through our budget for legal advertisements. And I'll be coming to the county board with an amendment to expand that. But that's actually a good thing. And I think we had another good month on compliance inspections. Yeah, 68 compliance inspections. So we're keeping that going at a good level. That's good. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion on this? Thank you, Mr. Hall, for getting this together for us. I know you're a few months behind, but that's due to some circumstances. I mean, just in part, the busyness that you have in the planning and zoning, and also with losing key personnel and getting new people back in to fill those positions.
And in particular, with the new enterprise resource planning software, we don't get monthly reports of where our budgets are. And so it was a surprise today to find out that we have blown through our legal advertisement budget. It's actually one of the bigger part of our non-personnel budget. So, you know, as this new software gets to be more fully integrated into operations, hopefully we won't have surprises like that. But that was a surprise.
Thanks. So with nobody being against it, we'll accept and place that on file. Chair's report. I have nothing for the chair's report. Designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda. There's nothing to be placed on the consent agenda. And with that, I'll call this meeting adjourned. Thanks.